Good afternoon and welcome to Resolutions for Recovery. This show is really being dedicated during April and May and June to prevention of substance use disorder. We see in the news about the pandemic throughout the United States for especially the heroin opiate epidemic. However, substance use disorder goes much further than that, alcoholism being still the #1 killer in the United States. And with summer coming up and kids having a lot more free time, we have to stop uttering the words, "It's only marijuana and they're only drinking." We do not wish to set them off for the rest of their lives. Let's start talking healthy decisions and organizing our communities to really come together to raise our children. We need to go back to not parenting in silos and bringing the community forward and caring about each and every one of our children. They are all our children. And I'm very happy to welcome today my good friend Kim Revere, and she is from my community, Kings Park, and she runs the local coalition, Kings Park in the Know.
Correct.
And actually tonight, the 23rd, the show won't show till Thursday, but we are doing an event with the middle school.
Right.
The average onset of having your first drink or a drug is now 11.7.
Yep.
Isn't that special?
Yep.
11.7, I didn't recognize that I was supposed to do anything but climb a tree and ride my
Exactly.
bike, to be quite honest with you. I think we grew up being young and stupid, and that was not a bad thing.
No.
Or naive is the word we should use.
Exactly. Like I was probably just out of dolls at 11 because I think
Yes.
the dolls actually went up to 10. And
I think we may have even gone to 12. To be honest, you were in,
Yeah, about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's sad that our young people have to feel that they can grow up because they have a computer that they carry in their hand, or exposed to very adult themes.
Absolutely.
Much too young in their lives.
Right. I don't know what I would have been like if I had had a cell phone at a young age like that. It doesn't make any sense. I was in the store the other day and there was a woman behind me and there was a little child in a stroller. He was 3 years old, cute as a button, and he was playing on, it was a phone. So I said, oh, he's going to be ready for the future when he grows up. And she said, oh, well, that's his phone. And she was very proud to tell me that that's his phone.
And he makes calls?
Well, I'm sure that he's, I don't know. I doubt he's making phone calls, but the fact that it's his phone, and she made it a point. It was like she was proud that her 3-year-old had a telephone.
My grandson, Vincent, who, when they moved to Georgia 2 years ago, I bought him a phone that looked like a watch.
Right.
It could call me, his Uncle Drew, and that was it. He could receive calls from us and no one else.
He wasn't 3, though, either.
He wasn't 3, he was 7.
Right.
But my point is, you want your child to have a phone to, and I hear this from parents very often, well, they need to be able to get in contact with me. Well, in the middle of class, they don't need to get in contact with anyone. So if you know that they're in school, you should feel free that you can call the office.
Exactly.
However, if we take that away and you want them to be able to call you, their father, or either parent, either grandparent, and or another trusted adult, they don't need to have access to the internet and the World Wide Web.
No.
They don't need to retrieve their emails.
No.
If I didn't have to retrieve emails, I certainly wouldn't carry the phone that I have either.
Correct.
But we're adults and we can navigate and make better choices.
Absolutely.
So I know we're going to talk about this tonight. Really, I know our community, as many communities, tough area because people don't want to think
that there's a problem
that
here.
there's a problem here.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I know I'm taking the strategic framework, prevention framework course, and we did real estate agencies were mentioned during that course and it was a problem in Kings Park as well at one point when we were first at least when I was first starting in the organization, it was brought up that it wasn't a welcome subject to be discussing because of apparently some real estate agencies were contacting the school district saying, you know, keep them quiet. And so my answer to that was, listen, I would rather buy a house in a community that was going to be proactive, because the problem is in every
Absolutely.
community. We are not this anomaly. It's
Right.
in every community, and I would rather purchase a home, especially the heavy bucks that people are paying to buy houses out in suburbia here on Long Island. I want to live where people are going to face the problem head on.
Proactively,
Be
right?
proactive.
I'd
and
be buying in Northport, East Northport.
Absolutely. So, but Kings Park, we have a wonderful superintendent we've had for the last few years, Dr. Egan, and he's absolutely wonderful, and he's right on board with us, and we are very
But
blessed
still,
to have him.
I'm going to say that we have not still initiated what needs to be initiated at the school level.
Right. Well, we do have the Too Good for Drugs program. We need
Yes.
it K through 12. We do have it 7 through 12. So, but
Yes.
it needs to be younger, because even sitting in meetings with people who are in recovery and their young people in recovery and their families in these Bridger meetings, I sat in a meeting a few months ago, and all of the parents, there was a common theme, and it was, I really wish that I knew everything that I'm learning here. We were at a rehab. I wish that everything that I'm learning here, I wish that I had known years ago, because it's basically you're learning about addiction and how to prevent addiction and then how to work through addiction. And so, of course, when it came to me, I asked them, I said, listen, not for nothing, but how old does everybody in this room feel that your children should have gotten this education? And all of them said, probably from 6th grade on, as far as the actual drug abuse. Before that, of course, we want to talk about coping skills and things such as that. But they all said, 6th grade, we should start talking about substances, you know, alcohol use, the effect on the brain. And I explained to them that if that's what they feel, then they really, each one of them who came from all different communities on Long Island, you need to call your school district and
You
say,
need to show up at a Board of
well,
Education
exactly.
meeting.
Go to a board
Yes.
of ed meeting, talk to your school district, and say, this is what we need. How do we go about getting this in our district?
Yes.
And then take it from there.
Yes.
But they
What
all
is
agreed.
the hesitancy to bring in Too Good for Drugs from kindergarten to?
I think the name scares people. Too Good for Drugs. I don't know why, but it does. And they think that we're going to start talking about heroin to kids in elementary school. And when you explain to people that that's not what it's all about, it's about coping skills and
Can
decision making.
I know, that we can find another program
Yes,
that
we
has a
can.
different name.
Yes, and actually there, from what I understand from another guest that you're going to be having on later on,
Yes.
there is a better program. It costs more money, but still,
Okay.
if you think about it, even the Too Good for Drugs program, it's not that expensive at all. And it's a Teach the Teacher program, but there are programs, like you said, I don't think they're that much more. It can be found. I mean, because the cost to society and the cost of human life, I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. But the cost, let's take the disease out of it.
Mm-hmm.
If we can start to empower 5-year-olds that are in kindergarten to start to cope through their problems, their little problems,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to come up with their own solutions.
Absolutely.
With the help of mom and dad, not mom and dad fixing it.
No.
With the help of mom and dad, we're going to raise better, well-adjusted children.
Absolutely.
That can handle. They live in a very fast-paced world.
This world is too
Moving
fast-paced for me.
exponentially.
Exactly. And I have found being involved with this organization and going to meetings and learning about prevention and addiction and recovery, I have learned so many great coping skills myself that I've implemented into my own life, and I think it's wonderful. I mean, and I love going to workshops.
So
I love going to classes.
my
I'm a better
point-
person for it. So why not raise young children with these skills?
You remember being the parent of your first kindergartner, correct? Mm-hmm. Would you have gone to anything that was at the school?
I would have.
That had to do with parenting your child. That's the facts of life. Whether we could put it on a module for parents to view, or whether we can make it a little bit more convenient for them. But the point is, we need to make things available to be a better parent. Not talk
Absolutely.
about substance use disorder. Never needs to be mentioned. Do you want to how to raise a healthy, well-adjusted
resilient
child in the times we are?
Absolutely.
People will come out of the woodwork for that.
Period. And if you can do that, then you're not going to need to
Correct.
be bringing in the words opiates, yada, yada, because you're probably not going to have to deal with them.
Correct. Because those are the steps that we need to take as communities.
Exactly.
We need to start, just educating healthy decision making.
Right.
I always say, if your child, God forbid, they have juvenile diabetes, you're going to be wrapped in services.
Absolutely.
So we need to wrap our kids in what we need to do with them.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting tonight to see how many people come out to the
Yes,
the
it's always
presentation.
very interesting to see, because every parent in the middle school should be there tonight.
Yes. Well, it was highly publicized throughout the district. We even invited surrounding districts, made it very specific. It was for parents of any child, of any age.
Okay.
The younger the better, because we have Kim Laube talking about prevention, and that's all about raising your resilient children. And, these things rub off on parents as well, and I believe there are less, parents need to hear how to do it right. Nobody gave me a handbook. I mean, yes, there are books, but
Nobody
it's
gives
still
you a
not the-
handbook on how to deal with everything that you're going to have to deal with.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, no criticism of parents or any, we're all overworked, overstressed. It's the world that we live in. However, that being said, when working with kids, and I just spent Friday working with 10th through 12th graders, and they are overstressed, overworked. They are not having fun.
Right.
They're not having
They're
fun.
supposed to have fun.
There's no time to have fun. But when our kids come to us with a problem, and I'm guilty of it too, you come home from work, you're trying to make dinner, you're trying to do laundry, you're trying to do all of the things that we are still responsible for, that you say, that's okay, it's not a problem. Don't let that bother you. But it is bothering them.
Right. We need to be able to take ourselves.
You
and
have
just-
to
and
meet
have
them
a-
where they are.
Exactly. And have a
Just like you
conversation.
want to be met, you need to.
Exactly.
Everybody likes to be validated. Nobody wants to be told, well, that's ridiculous that you feel that way. Nobody
Right.
wants to ever hear those words. They want to say, oh, Kim, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that you had a bad day. Now you feel, oh, good, somebody's listening.
Right.
Whether they are or not, just
Right,
saying
they
those
said it.
words make you feel better, right?
Exactly. It's true.
So most of the time people aren't listened to,
No.
especially us. But what else are we doing in my community that's making a difference?
Well,
I do believe, before I even let you speak,
yeah, it's fine.
third grade in our district, we have the 4-5 building, grades 4 and 5. So after third grade is a transition night. There should be something done at that night to welcome them into 4th grade.
Right.
4th and 5th grade should really be, a lot of work needs to be done in that building
Right.
regarding, healthy choices.
Right.
5th grade going to the middle school, that's another big transition night.
Right.
We need to pay much closer attention to that.
Yeah. I think those are probably, they're all
And
pretty
8th
big
grade,
transitions. But
8th grade to 9th grade is a huge transition, because in 8th grade we may still be kind of doing a pretty good job. But that summer, big changes
Big.
physically, mentally, emotionally, all of those things.
Exactly.
And you go from being the big kahuna in the middle school, you're going to be the little fish in the big ocean again.
Right.
So, anxiety, all of those things, you want to fit in. How do we
Absolutely.
start to fit in?
Absolutely.
We're going to fit in doing whatever
It takes.
the big kids, right, and whatever it
Absolutely.
takes.
I know,
Very well
it's-
put.
It's very sad.
It is sad.
Yeah,
It is sad.
it's very sad.
Are we getting our religious leaders involved?
I did send invitations out to everybody for tonight's
Okay,
event.
okay.
So I'm hoping that this is a starting point, because just the fact that tonight's lineup, the fact that we're doing such an event as this with parents, it's the first time that Kings Park in the Know has ever done anything specifically for parents as far on this scale. We
Okay.
have monthly meetings at the library as far as, as far as different coping skills and informational series.
Stress management.
Stress
yeah.
management, right. Mindfulness and things like that. But this is the first time on this scale that we've actually had something specifically pinpoint to parents. So I'm hoping that this will stir up more interest in the parents once they hear what Kim has to say, and
Yes.
once they hear what you have to say. Because, people in town know who you are, but they might know your story, but they haven't heard you speak. So this is like I told everybody.
Mike Thomas is their child.
Exactly. He's ours, and I'm just praying that the people come out and they take. I know that they're going to have a wonderful evening. It's going to be great, and I want them to take that information out with them, and then hopefully, I'd like to have Dr. Dewey come back in the
fall.
in the fall, and for parents, do it during the day for the kids, and then in the evening for the parents.
Yes.
Because last year, when the high school did it for the kids, we had done it for the kids in the evening, but then the high school PFA did it specifically for the kids during the day. And there was a lot of hullabaloo on Facebook about, can you believe that the school district brought in this doctor to teach our kids about drugs, yada, yada, yada. He was teaching the effects of the brain, the effects of
drugs on the brain.
and alcohol and substances on the human brain, on the adolescent brain. And
right.
it causes damage.
Yes.
So I did explain, hey, we had Dr. Dewey 2 weeks ago in the evening. Any parent could have come and seen what he was going to present. I think there were 5 or 6 parents there that night.
That's sad.
So you know what?
And Dr. Stephen Dewey is a brilliant scientist and has studied this, and he presents all over the country.
Absolutely.
So shame on them for not educating themselves on, don't ever, I think the one thing I stress with parents now is when they say my child doesn't have a problem. Today,
Right.
your child does not have a
Exactly.
problem. Because circumstances are what circumstances are.
And
It
you
could,
never know.
you never know what life is going to
Yep.
bring your way.
Absolutely.
So, you need to be educated, you need to be empowered, and you need to have these health policies in your family ready. What do we accept
What if
in this
something
family?
happens? Right. Absolutely. And what if something happens? But-
We set clear boundaries with children and their chores, children and their homework, children joining a sport and being, able to show up and work with the team and not to quit during the middle of a season. We teach all of that. Well, if you're going to teach all of that, then you better bulletproof them against everything. Against everything that could come their way.
Absolutely.
So what I'm thinking too, just so people that are watching this show, so we get the school district engaged, but perhaps speaking at St. Joseph's during a mass for 15 minutes, we should be trying that also, or at the synagogue,
Right.
and the Presbyterian Church. Maybe they would allow, because I know on Long Island, right, we just had all the churches finally come to the
Right.
table.
Right.
So
That's
if
true.
they're getting more people that are coming to them saying, I don't know what to do, because some people, that's the first person they go to rather than their doctor.
Correct.
That's their advisor.
Absolutely.
So we need to be able to have these conversations with them.
Right.
I know I worked with the School of Religion last year to speak to the 8th graders. Supposed to do it this year, not sure what happened, but we didn't repeat that.
Okay.
But we need to, we have to start looking into all different avenues. More so.
Absolutely, everywhere. I think that's one of the things I like that whole tobacco campaign where you always heard about it here and there.
Yes.
So little snippets here and there. We recently in Smithtown, we did the sticker shock campaign where we took the stickers with kids. We went into Uncle Giuseppe's and another place in Smithtown, Bolo or something like that, Bullseye. And put
Best Market?
It wasn't Best, it was Bolo or something.
Okay.
The beer distributor over there.
Oh, okay.
Right. And we put these stickers, and I gave some to Kings Park as well, beer distributor. We took these stickers, and basically the sticker says, that we don't purchase beer for people under 21 years old, kids under 21 years old. So somebody's going to pick up a 6-pack or a case of beer, and they're going to see that sticker. It's not, you shouldn't be buying alcohol for somebody under 21 years old or giving alcohol to somebody who's under 21 years old. So you see that. You see a PSA here or there. The kids will hear something in school, and maybe you'll have a discussion at the dinner table. You keep hearing the message that you shouldn't be drinking alcohol before the age of 21. Why?
Well, that's
because it's bad for, yeah, that's legal, but your brain isn't developed until you're at least 25 years old. But if they're hearing that in health class, all these little snippets are giving you the idea and the understanding that, hey, this is not good for you.
Correct.
I didn't get that when I was younger.
There should, never mind the fact that it's against the law
correct.
to go in and purchase alcohol and bring it out and give it to a minor.
Absolutely. But, we're reminding people and little messages here and there. That's not the world that I grew up in.
No.
I cleaned up after the cocktail party and, took a sip out of every glass. I was like, go clean up. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that didn't happen in my house.
But hey, that's what.
But it was a different world.
It was a totally different world.
It was a totally different
and
world.
And we didn't all survive.
We didn't all survive.
A lot of people I know are
we didn't all
no
survive,
around.
and not everyone came through that unscathed.
No, absolutely.
And the other part of that is when parents of our age say, well, it's only marijuana. It's not. John Venza has been here quite a few weeks, and he would love for it not to be named marijuana anymore. It's hydroponically grown. It's genetically engineered. It is not grown in your garden.
No.
It is not so, innocent.
I've had a couple of people within the last few weeks tell me, adults, saying that they're going to consider not smoking it anymore because of all the stuff
it's laced
with. Because even though they thought that they could trust where their stuff is coming from, which whatever that means, they realize that they can't. And unless you're growing it in your own backyard, you don't know what's in that.
Correct. Well, I certainly don't want anybody smoking marijuana.
Exactly.
But if you're an adult and you come home from work and every single day you say, I had a bad day, I'm going to have a glass of wine, I'm going to have a beer, I'm going to have a cocktail. Don't be surprised when your 10-year-old comes home from having a bad day and says,
lights it up,
wow,
right.
Mom and Dad are my hero. So if they come home and this helps them with a bad day, I'm going to do it also. Because that's what they're going to do. Some people are, speaking to young people in recovery, they knew at 9 years old when Grandpa gave them a sip of wine at the dinner table that they wanted more of that.
Absolutely.
So there are people that are, there are children that are predisposed to a disease, period. And or keep giving them those little things. You're changing the neural pathways. You're changing a lot of things the way their brain is growing. So if I've spoken to 5,000 people in the last few years all over the state that are in treatment, and I asked them, what age would you be if I asked you to go back and tell yourself not to start? And the overwhelming answer is 12. Are we really that surprised that the age is now
11.7?
11.7.
Right.
And people can be as naive as they want and say, well, that's not my child.
Right.
It's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And in our district, too, just like every other district, sports teams, including parents, Listen, Andrew was a wrestler for many years, and look, we played lacrosse. When parents have to tailgate during a kids' tournament, that's a problem. And or sneak outside and sit in somebody's truck, because wrestling's in the wintertime, and drink and become noticeably incoherent, that's a problem.
Yeah, big problem.
So you
But it
think you
happens.
need to look at yourself, and why can't we stop that? But what are you saying to your kids?
Absolutely.
You are not allowed to drink and drive. I am.
Yep, it is. It's pervasive throughout
Do
the
as I
society.
say, not as I do.
Right.
And that's very unfortunate. So I know, we have such a cute little town. We really do.
We do. We're very fortunate.
However, we have are in the Guinness Book of World Records for the
yes,
most
we used to,
bars per
right.
capita,
Yes, we did
which
have
is
that.
horrendous. So if you want to get drunk and get your nails done and get a cell phone from many different carriers,
Exactly.
come to our town, because that's all we
Exactly.
got.
And the liquor store delivers.
And let's talk about that in our next. We have to go to a commercial in a few minutes, but we're going to talk about that the liquor store delivers. Ridiculous. We'll be right back after this message.
They said one hit wouldn't hurt. They said one hit wouldn't hurt.
They lied. Get your kids the truth about drugs. Drugfreeworld.org.
I could have been so many things. I had friends and family that loved me. I had talent and a drive to do well. I could have been happy and successful. I could have lived my life. Instead, I'm here. Heroin brought me here. One try was all it took. Now, all I have is this cold metal bed.
They said drugs would make you cool.
Go in my room. I just asked you. No, Mom, shut up, Mom. Tell me to shut up. Leave me alone. Get back here. Stay home.
Just say it to my face, dude. What? Just say it, dude. What? It's my face.
What's wrong with you?
Man, forget you guys.
Hey, wake up, CBA. Pay attention in my class.
They said drugs would make you cool. They lied. Find out the truth about drugs. Drugfreeworld.org.
My parents never thought that their kid could have a heroin problem.
They never checked my room for my stash, never questioned the kind of kids I was hanging out with.
They never paid attention to the things they found in my laundry.
They never bothered to check my text messages or what I looked at online.
Never checked the car I drove around in.
Never checked my book bag. And now my parents will never be able to forgive themselves.
Get help. Get involved before it's too late.
Welcome back to Resolutions for Recovery, and now we've added a special guest, another Kim with a Y.
It's a night of Kims.
It's a
How
night
awesome
of
is that?
Kims. It is awesome.
And
Kim,
just so you stay on point, I spell mine with a Y. Kim spells with an I. So just to not confuse you, you know the difference between the two.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the heads up.
Yes.
And I'm Linda with an I, just in case you
Just
needed
in
to know
case.
that. So, Kim, you run Hugs.
I do.
And tell everyone what that stands for.
Sure. So HUG stands for Human Understanding and Growth Services. We've been around for over 35 years. I've been with the program since 1982, which was its very early years. I've been with the program since 85, my apologies. But the program started in 1982, and we're really proud of the work that we've been doing and continue to do in some areas that we begin to approach and expand. So it's been quite a fun journey being at the head of the ship there.
Well, you should be in every school district.
Thank you.
On Long Island. You know, there is nobody that does prevention better. And I've seen a few presenters. So I'll give you, this conversation needs to be made a daily conversation with our children. And, I always toot Anthony Ferradino's school district there because he does have teachers that also participate with math, and just how many overdoses and what's the percentage, so we can bring that in.
Sure.
Social studies. What's different about today's epidemic as compared in the 70s? We can compare and go back in time, scientific, everything. Why we are not reading books in English, Forgiving Kevin, who was written by Kevin's dad, Larry Glens, who lost his son also to, a star lacrosse player. Why can't that be the book that kids read to keep the conversation moving? There's no reason why. I know we are exceptionally bright. So, of course, we would come up with these ideas, but they should be run with then by school superintendents, as far as I'm concerned.
When it comes to schools, there's so much they're up against, and I want to give them a lot of respect.
Absolutely.
They are between state standards and new demands coming down, and and teachers, dealing with all the different business parts of the school. Then you deal with all the education components of it. There's just so much that goes in, and really school boards, they change, and oftentimes folks don't know how to deal with this because it's so complex. Budgets don't allow for it. Northport, I give Northport tremendous praise because not only did they start with saying we're going to invest in hiring a drug and alcohol counselor on staff,
Yeah, absolutely.
which was brilliant. Sachem has the most drug and alcohol staff that I've ever seen in any school district, with all the different programs that they run between their prevention educators that they have, their clinical staff. Sachem has a phenomenal support system, and other schools as well. And I certainly don't want to miss any of them because they're out there.
Absolutely.
One of the things we find, and Northport's a great example, a community got together and said, hey, we want to drive this, and they were able to work with the school and get a counselor put on staff. But as a result of that and the work and the traction they've gotten, they actually have federal funding now to support their community part of it.
Yes.
Right? So as we have these conversations.
And the school, that was initiated by the school board. That was not initiated that was initiated by the school board, which to me just makes sense.
And the truth is, when we look at all of the different components about this, it goes back to we all have to work together.
Yes.
One-shot deals are one-shot deals. I can tell you there's a gazillion schools I go into, and I have a conversation. I do the hour and a half presentation, and it has its impact. And I hear from parents all the time, yes, I parent a little differently. I think a little differently. I've changed some of my behaviors. But for that long-term sustainability, we really need that message to continue. It's okay to start a conversation, and I love when all of a sudden somebody will be like, I heard the speaker once and she said this, and I knew I was the speaker, and that was what they said, because we're getting that conversation started.
Yes.
Now our call to action is, how do we keep it going? And how do we keep it going in communities, looking at how do you support families? How do you support individuals? How do you support schools? And how do you support community? And understanding that we all have to work together at this. It's
absolutely
never going to be a speaker or a program in a school, And I feel for schools
in a community. We have to bring in all
of it.
All of it together.
Yeah, and there's actually great science behind how do you begin to take a look at your community, assess your community, and build programs. But we started this conversation about talking about schools, and obviously the presentation we're going to give tonight and the challenges with schools. When schools get ahead of this thing, it's brilliant.
Yes.
When schools say, hey, you know what, we're going to talk about it, because Suffolk is the epicenter.
Yes.
Suffolk is a place where we all need to be talking about this. And so I applaud school districts when they open up their doors and say, yep, we're going to bring in an evidence-based program like Too Good for Drugs. There are other evidence-based programs out there. Too Good for Violence, usually the elementary schools certainly embrace a little bit more. Somehow it's acceptable to have programs against bullying as opposed to drugs and alcohol, but we're making strides. We're a little bit better today in our conversation and further along than we were a little while ago. There was a time I would knock on all the school district doors and say, we need to be talking, and they would say, yes, Kim, thank you for your information, and we're just going to go about our business because we do education. Well, now they're starting to understand that there's a value in having comprehensive health of their students, having emotional intelligence of their students, having kids who are learning how to cope and deal and strategize, because they actually tend to perform better. And so,
I've said to parents, and that's no joke, when they denied to me, because I've quite frankly earned the right to say,
absolutely,
your child needs to be alive to pass the SATs.
Absolutely.
So let's come back to that. And I think as a community, we should not be worried when they're 10 years old where they're going to go to college. I think the job to come through our communities is to raise a well-adjusted, happy, able to cope young person, able to take on the world.
Self-efficacy, yeah. It really is. I have this amazing opportunity to work with kids on Shelter Island, and they come from all different school districts, right? And Northport and Lindenhurst, we've drawn as far those points. Rockville Center used to be involved with us, but any school district that wants to send a group of teens out to us for one of our conferences can. The particular kids who come from an East End school district who has an IB, International Baccalaureate, which is actually even more advanced than an AP program. These kids are immersed in this program, and the amount of stress and the amount of pressure to perform is so intense. They love coming on our weekends because they're learning how to match that intensity, how to say, yes, I can be on fire and I can push myself to do more and more and to hit these academic levels because this is what I'm choosing to do. That's the goals that I've set for myself. And this is how I'm going to counteract that stress in a very positive way.
With mindfulness.
Yeah, mindfulness. I'm going to learn how to do breathing exercises. I'm going to learn how to do meditate or guided imagery. I'm going to learn how to just identify that, oh, these feelings are stress, and talk about them so that I can release them as opposed to holding them all in. So we can actually push our kids to do okay. We just need to make sure we match.
We have to make sure that the other side of it is handled.
And we also have to get that not every kid, college is going to be their gig. For some reason, we bought into this idea. We've got to put them through 4 years of college. We've got, they have to get a certain amount on the SATs or the ACTs. The truth is, not every kid is going to, we need kids to learn trades. We need kids to be hands-on. The problem that I worry about is when we put so much emphasis on academics and we put so much emphasis there, then the challenge is what happens to the kid who's not driven that way? Right. And then you just kind of marginalize them more and more. And now they start
go to BOCES and they feel like a failure.
Yeah. And let me tell you, my kid went to BOCES and he became a private pilot at BOCES. A private pilot. He gets in when other kids, he didn't even have his driver's license, right? But he had his pilot's license. So during the day, what was he doing? He was flying to Connecticut. I was like, how was your day? And he's like, I flew to Connecticut today. Where you're expecting as a parent, oh, English class was good. And, and you still had to do the academic classes, but my kid was in a plane. So when parents, us moms, would be on Facebook and be like, "Oh, my kid drove for the first time away from me," and I just want you to stop and think about what it's like to watch your kid fly away from you in a plane, right?
Yeah.
So that's. So the trades and the BOCES programs and they have advanced so much.
They have advanced so much. We need tradespeople.
But infrastructure's falling apart. We need those people. I know people in the trades. And,
absolutely, and they need those.
And guess what? They probably will. A good plumber and electrician will end up making more than a physician.
Yeah,
with less debt.
Absolutely. And
So-
so it's really important that we meet kids where they're at.
Where they are.
We give them the
And there's no shame in it.
and we give them the opportunity. See, that's our job, is whether it's an opportunity to do an international baccalaureate program and be highly advanced, or if it's an opportunity to do an internship, or if it's an opportunity to do an apprenticeship, it is up to our communities to make sure those opportunities are there.
Absolutely.
Then empower kids with the skills to walk through and connect to those opportunities.
But I have challenged school districts because, so I'll use Thomas, because he can't answer me back either. So, but he was your 85 student, very well behaved and quiet. So he always fell through the cracks. So when he didn't do his homework, but it was week 8 into a 12-week marking period, and he doesn't, well, why? Well, he's so well behaved. Well, that's not really an answer for a parent to hear, because kids with very high grades get a lot of attention. Kids who are problems that are failing get a lot of attention, but we leave an awful big population in the middle to fall simply through the cracks. And they are allowed to fall through the cracks. And that, to me, is unacceptable. They all matter. Not what's going to make you look better as a teacher with the grades. They all should count equally.
And it really, that's one of the challenges we're up against. Many challenges.
We have a lot of challenges. And that's,
But-
again, not a criticism, just a simple observation.
Acknowledgement.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, Kim with an I and Kim with a Y. And Kim with a Y will also be doing another segment, so we're not done with her yet. Have a great week.